Marnie Schneider is a wife, a mother, a book author, a sports lover, and an animal lover. And now she's out with her recent book, Football Freddie and the Fumble Dog. I sit down one-on-one with Marnie for a special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Marnie Schneider, it's so good to meet you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You know, as we sit here right now, you obviously are an entrepreneur, a mother, a wife, and obviously you're out helping this particular community as well as the animals. What is it like to be you these days?
Thank you. Well, you know what? I'm very fortunate. I've had incredible opportunities to grow up and see amazing things, and it's my responsibility, I feel, to make sure that my kids have an incredible childhood, and so I do everything, because they can't redo that. That's like the one thing we know, we can't redo the childhood. So I want to make sure that my kids have a great childhood, that my parents have a great adulthood as they're older, and make sure that they're enjoying their life. Do everything I can to make sure that the animals that I have rescued have a really great life. My friends, who are really my family too, that they have a great life. And then do everything I can to give other kids who might not have had the opportunities and experience that I had and exposure, to give them a great childhood. And one of the ways that I can do that, I think, is through writing a book that they can read, they can have read to them, or that they can share, or someone can share with them. So those are some of the things that are on my shoulders daily, but I embrace it and I'm very grateful for it.
You talk about the book. Let me talk about it. Football Freddie and the Fumble Dog. Gameday in the Carolinas, written by you, Marnie Schneider, and obviously Goldie Grace.
Right, Goldie is my daughter.
Oh.
So Goldie is my 15-year-old daughter. She would have been here today, but I did not let her miss school.
Yeah.
So, having a co-author, I was like, wait a minute. Usually when you have a co-author, you can kind of, team up and do some of the work together. But no, she's in school.
Yeah.
So, to me, I grew up in a football family. It was a family business. My grandfather owned the team. My mother, who's an amazing woman, a maverick, she was my grandfather's legal counsel, vice president, and general manager. And she's the only female that's ever been in that position in a professional football team. To this day, there's never been another female that's had those roles that my mom has. Wow. So my mom was my co-author on the first book, which was Gameday in Philadelphia. And then I said, well, Mom, how would you feel if we let Goldie be the co-author of Gameday in the Carolinas? And she thought that was great. And then my older son is my co-author in the next book, which is Gameday in Atlanta. And then my youngest son, who has not started school yet, he will be my co-author in the following one of the other books that we're working on now.
Yeah, maybe, Gameday and Dallas.
Exactly, that's right, yes. Possibly. He's more of a Bronco fan, but that's right. But we love the Cowboys. I love football. The thing is, I grew up in Philadelphia. Yes, I cheered for the Eagles when I was growing up, and I am truly a football fan. So this is my love letter and way to give back to all the great communities out there. And it's a great thing. I always say speaking sports. If you can speak sports, it's basically like speaking it's the most universal language to me.
Oh, I agree completely. And you talk about that love letter. As you know, there's a big debate going on about football right now. When you think of football and the state of football, what goes to your mind?
Well, I worry about football. I'm not a worrier by nature, but I worry about football because it gave me so many great things. So my book is really a way to universally embrace all the great traditions of football. So certainly, if you're experiencing the Carolinas, you'll get to see, if you're on a road trip, kind of some of the great places here in South Carolina or North Carolina, and then really understand what it's like to be at the game, or if you can't go to the game, then what happens at a game.
Right.
So, there are traditions, there are, things that make football and every sporting event kind of well-known and universally loved. And so I worry about football having some of the some of the things that I grew up liking and the traditions, not necessarily being part of the culture, but things change, and guess what? That's okay too. So while I'm a traditionalist and I like to kind of follow the rules, I also understand that sometimes it's okay to see what else is out there, and then you maybe dip your toe in the water and you overcorrect, and then you bring it back a little bit and get back to a new normal.
Right. And let me get back to the series. Obviously, you said this. There's only one thing that Freddie loves as much as football: sightseeing. Every time she and her trusty companion, Fumble the Dog, visits a new city, they set out to learn all about the location and its history before cheering on the home team.
That is interesting.
Thank you. Well, because, I had this great experience when I was growing up. We would go to a new city, and my mother and grandfather, it's a family business, so they went to work. So whether it's like you're with your parents on the job. I have a lot of friends whose mothers and fathers both worked, and they would have, they would go with their mom or dad, whether it was in the plumbing business, or whether it was being a lawyer, or whether it was, being a vet, anything like that. So my experience was getting on a plane or getting in a car and driving to a city. And then when you're at that place, what do you do to entertain yourself? Well, we didn't have cell phones, back in the 80s and early 90s. So, we had cell phones. It was like a big briefcase thing. It was like, hello. You needed to have, pretty much, you needed to have like a roll of tinfoil and some hangers to make sure that you were even going to be able to connect with anybody.
Right.
So, this was a way to explore, places, and I had to kind of, roll up my sleeves and dig in, and it was fun for me. And I thought, this is something that, again, not everybody's going to get the chance to go throughout the Carolinas or even be in another state. And in football, as in, in sports, there's a lot of families that are two-team families, or somebody might be a Panthers fan and somebody might be an Eagles fan. So this is a great way to learn about both places. And then if you're not in the Carolinas and you want to learn about the Carolinas, well, this is a great way to learn about it.
What have you personally learned about the Carolinas?
Well, I've learned that everybody is so nice, okay? I live in the Carolinas now, so, we made a conscious decision to move from California to the Carolinas. I love California too, but, it was something about, like, I said to my children, hey, let's go on an adventure, because life is about learning how to be flexible, and, at least to me, and how to make new friends and widen your net and see what's out there. And so they were all very much up for it, and it's been great. We've been here for a year in the Carolinas, and what I've learned is that there's so much history here, there's so much tradition, people are so proud, they have such pride of ownership of their homes, of where they live, of how they dress, of their community. It's really, everybody is really so lovely. And I think everybody, and by the way, I really think we as humans are all really lovely. I think sometimes people have some issues that, are out of our control, so that might be why they're having a bad day or whatever. But I do think that most people are genuinely want to be nice. Sometimes they might, again, just have, not had the proper, night's sleep. And sometimes that happens. But, what I've learned about the Carolinas, there's so much to do here. Yeah. It's really, there's so much to do. And also the huge love for the military in the Carolinas. That's something. Fort Bragg is, I love that page. Yeah. To me, this is something that I really wanted to highlight was, the military and how we're so grateful to have the military. And Fort Bragg, this is going to be their 100th anniversary this year of Fort Bragg. Right. So these are things that, and then also having the ability to see things that are historical, that are military-based history, that are, fundamental parts of our country. That to me is so amazing, and it's right at our fingertips. Right. The USS Yorktown, wherever you are, just even the bridge, okay, the Arthur Avenel Bridge is unbelievable. It is so breathtaking. Yes. It is breathtaking. Yeah. So, you think about just a way to, how our history between motor cars and bridges and things like that, and that's so unbelievable how much we've been able to accomplish. Right. And that to me is really just exciting. I get very excited about talking about it.
Oh yes, and I'm so excited. Coastal Carolinas in this book.
Yes.
You have Citadel. Obviously Charleston's in the book.
Yes.
Why Charleston?
Well, Charleston's got such a great, rich history. Okay, people love to go to Charleston because it's very swanky. Yeah. And it's got all the panache and all that stuff. And it has beautiful stores, and the streets are so beautiful. And, this is my youngest son's first visit here. And I said, it's so European here. And he said, I don't know what that means. And I was like, you're right, you don't know what that means. I said, well, it has a very old feel to it. So you really can kind of immerse yourself in the history of, what happened on these cobblestone streets. Right. And the names of the streets are very elegant. So there's something very beautiful about coming to visit Charleston that you don't really get in any other city in the United States. I guess maybe the closest would be Savannah. Right. There's some similarities between those, and we're going to feature Savannah in the next book in Gameday in Atlanta. But Charleston is just such a beautiful place with a lot of history and with a lot of tradition and with, people that are very, I think it's a very open-minded place. And I think that it has great restaurants, yes, great food, And it's just beautiful. What's not to like?
Yeah. And you also touched on Myrtle Beach. I just mentioned Coastal Carolina, which is right there in Conway. You also touched on the Biltmore State,
Yes.
Cape Hatteras. When you think of those particular locations, what stick out in your mind?
Well, I think that, first of all, the Carolinas are known for their travel and tourism. So that was one thing that was really, kind of our book is a travel and tourism book. It takes you on a tour through the Carolinas, through North Carolina, South Carolina, so that's definitely travel and tourism, and that's what this, the states are known for. But also then, it is known for history, and it is known for museums, and it is known for Kitty Hawk. I mean, think about that. I mean, think about airplanes, like how every day, I mean, airplanes are such a huge part of our life, and without Kitty Hawk and without the Wright brothers, that how are we getting around? I mean, it would be much more complicated to travel and to do travel and tourism without that. Also, Columbia, we highlight that. There's a little kind of a funny page about some very important statue in Columbia, which is the largest fire hydrant in the world. And I know everybody that lives in Columbia, they'll say, oh, let's meet at the fire hydrant. Because it really is such a significant, it might not seem artistic, but it is, and it's a beautiful thing. And, those are things that, and then also the museum in Raleigh, and just getting around the Carolinas, and they really are two states, one team, and I think that it kind of has a nice message what we are as a country. We're, many states, one team. That's my thought.
Yeah, and you also said this too, quote, this book offers something for locals and visitors, parents and pet owners, and fans of all ages. Plus, we're able to give back to the communities featured in the book. A portion of the proceeds from the book sales will go to the USOs in North and South Carolina and local animal shelters, which will work to protect animals just like Fumble.
That is true. And also I'm going to add one more, the Ronald McDonald House.
Yes.
So my grandfather, when he owned the Philadelphia Eagles in 1974, a player on his team came to my grandfather and said, we have a problem. And my grandfather said, what do you need? What do you want? He's like, well, it's not really my problem. It's not like I need equipment or I need a better helmet. It's like, or I need more money, but my daughter is ill, and what do we do? And my grandfather said, okay, we'll take care of it. And that turned into my grandfather contacting Ray Kroc, who was a friend of his, and kind of the joke is he said that he's like, well, I think it should be called the Ronald McDonald House. He said, no one wants to stay at the Leonard Toe's house. He's like, I don't even think my wife wants to stay here. He's like, but so, I don't think kids are going to, so let's call it the Ronald McDonald House because every kid loves McDonald's and it's associated with, family and friendly and fun and things like that. So we are working with the local Ronald McDonald houses all throughout the Carolinas. There's 8 or 9 of them throughout the Carolinas. A beautiful one here that they're building, that they're actually expanding and making bigger, and I'm very proud of that. And I'm also very proud of our partnership with the USO Family Reset. So what that does is we're working to reunite families when a soldier, comes back from combat, and it's a beautiful thing. And the USO is an incredible organization, and we're very lucky to have them. And then also animal shelters, because Fumble is based off my little rescue Chihuahua, whose name is actually Irving. But I didn't change his name because I didn't think he was going to like that. So he's the inspiration. He is, he is my muse in many ways for Fumble, and he gets to do a lot of fun things. And when he'll wear a bathing suit, he'll, dress up like a pirate. And when they're, looking for the pirates in the coastal Carolinas, he will be dreaming of the bones at the hospital. At the museum, he will be, smelling gardenias, and he will definitely be hanging out of, the race car in Charlotte, looking very intimidating, which is our nod to, the Intimidator, Dale Earnhardt.
That's right.
Yes.
I heard that he's going to be featured in one of the Bravo shows coming up soon.
I think so. Yes. We'll have to. He just had a newborn, so I think it's time for us to get him a copy of Football Freddie.
Oh yes, indeed, absolutely. And going forth, when people put down this book, what should they say about Football Freddie and the Fumble Dog, Gameday in the Carolinas?
Oh, well, I think that, what I'm hopeful that they would say is that, wow, this was great, I learned something. I can't wait to share this with my child, my friend, my uncle, my brother. I want to buy a bunch of copies, because it's doing a bunch of things. It's, going to help out local charities. It's going to also encourage families to read. So I think for me, like when people read the book, they're always so pleasantly surprised when they put it in. Like, I didn't know that there were 11 players on an offense and 11 players on a defense. And I was like, yeah, You know, so this is just kind of getting into the vernacular of learning how to speak sports, which I think is a super important language to speak. And there's 5 romance languages, but I believe one of the most romantic, which is not part of the 5, is sports, because it can really, you know, unite everybody. And even if that's not your team, you might still have respect for a player or a play or want to learn about it, because it really does bring everybody together.
And what is the future of sports in your mind?
Well, you know, I love sports. I love professional sports. I love team sports. I love individual sports. I mean, growing up, you know, for me, obviously, professional football was a huge part of my life, but I also loved baseball and basketball and soccer and hockey and, you know, going to those games.
Right.
And there's nothing like a live sporting event, because you can't do it over. I mean, I spent some years in Hollywood, and I did a bunch of movies and, you know, worked in the movie business. And you know, what's really great about the movie business is you can do it over. Guess what? They can re-edit you, they can re-loop you, they can edit you out, they don't, you know, for continuity. I've been told I've been edited out of movies for continuity, not because performance, but whatever, you know. So it's like, those are the things. But in sports, you get your time and you have to bring it. And if you're not prepared, then you're not going to win. And, you know, or if you do win, it's going to be really kind of an ugly victory. So I think that what sports teach kids and teach people is that, you know, to be prepared. If you're not prepared, my grandfather would say, don't show up. And so when you're to train your mind, it's similar to reading in a lot of ways. When you're, you know, an athlete and you're participating in sports, you have to really train your mind to put everything else out but my team or but my individual sport or whatever it is. And when you're reading, it really gives you a chance to actually put everything out of your mind and just embrace the words and embrace the journey that you're going on. And for kids, a lot of kids don't have a lot of fun in their day. They just don't have it. I mean, I've done a lot of work with, you know, charities. I have my own foundation called Keep On Playing, which we work with local, you know, boys and girls clubs and communities to get kids to just play or to enjoy having a chance to go to a baseball game. And, you know, kids are really stressed out. And a lot of kids are not, you know, their family life is stressful. They're hungry. A lot of kids in our country are hungry. And so for me, it's kind of like figuring out ways that they can take a journey through reading and really satisfy themselves. And I think reading is a really great way to, you know, provide their mind with nourishment. And then we can help them get, you know, get nourishment for their body, which is equally important.
Yeah, you're absolutely right with that.
Yeah.
Well, Marnie Schneider, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate this.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for doing this.
Anytime.
This is not easy, what you do.
Oh, thank you.
You know, the preparation, again, like, it's like you're an athlete, and you have to be prepared, and,
That's right.
you know, I'm your teammate, you're not trying to necessarily, you know, beat me on the field,
Right.
but we're teammates, but the preparation of having, you know, the work to put in to know what you're gonna talk about and all these other things, that requires a lot of work. People, you make it look easy, because good people that are good at what they do make it look easy.
Thank you.
But, you
That's
know,
great.
well, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so happy, and I thank you for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Well, let's do it again.
All right, absolutely. Let's do it during football season. Maybe we could take it on the road
There you go.
and go read to some kids.
Yes,
And
I'm
see
all
what-
for it.
Okay?
Oh, yes.
All right, we can go to the Ronald McDonald House
There you go. That's a start.
and set something up there.
Exactly
And
right.
do a reading, and Quentin's Corner can travel.
Yes, that's
You know,
indeed. That's right.
We'll be on the road.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent.
I'm looking forward to
All right,
it.
I'll suit up in my, you know, my jersey. You know, we'll throw a few passes in between and just as a warm-up act, and then go.
Oh, yes. And pick up the book.
That's
if you
right.
can.
Footballfreddy.com. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks. That was great.
That was
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.